Hey, I'm ZSH Plays. Welcome to my top 10 builds of 2025. From penguins and sea lions to horses and weasel, we've built nearly 50 habitats this year, and these I think are the 10 best that we've built. Let's check them out. Our first build is the From Amazon to Andes house at Belmont Zoo. This complex for 7 species is particularly special to me because having built this over 3 episodes back in February, in September I got to actually go from the Amazon to the Andes in Peru and see things like this for myself, which was absolutely amazing. My favourite part of this habitat is the floating log lagoon at the beginning, which uses the animal encounters so that the guests will actually walk over the logs and into the lagoon, which is really fun to watch. There's capybara, capuchin and saki monkey in the Amazon part, spectacled bears in the Andes, and then sloths joining the two. And then on the outside, there's maned wolves and anteaters as well. I love how this habitat looks and especially how it works for the guests. It would certainly have been higher on the list except for one thing. I really think the spectacled bear needs more space. If I was building it again now, I would have moved the sloths into the Amazon and given the spectacled bears more space because I feel a bit sorry for them in here. But that aside, I was still really pleased with this habitat, and that's why it's number 10 on our top 10 builds of 2025. Let's check out the next one. Next up is a very different kind of habitat, the Lost Wilds at the Alpine Mountain Zoo. This was built in October and it started life as just a very simple set of paddocks for GEFORCE's horse and weasel, which was going to sit at the back of this zoo and just provide a bit of a backdrop. But as I built it, I was really enjoying how it looked, and I realised that both of the animals I'd chosen, completely by accident, were animals that you could find roaming around the wilds of Europe thousands of years ago. And I realised we could turn this into a kind of Paleolithic themed area. So we added in some kind of Stone Age theming and then brought some spotted hyenas in as well, which also roamed Europe during that time, and ended up with a themed area that I really like. It also uses a borrowed backdrop so that the backs of the exhibits are hidden, so it looks like they extend off into all the hills and mountains in the distance. The habitats look especially pretty in the snow, which is something I've been really enjoying this winter in Planet Zoo, and that's probably one of the reasons why this is in here. Right, let's check out the next habitat. If you follow the channel, you'll know that one of my favourite things to do in Planet Zoo is to try and do something interesting with the exhibit boxes. One of the least popular things in the game, for good reason, because they're so limited. But over the years, we've tried to do interesting things with them, and I think this is one of my favourites that we've ever achieved. It's based on some exhibits in a zoo in Europe, I forget the name. It might actually be the Mountain Zoo in Innsbruck, where they actually have some Planet Zoo-style glass boxes outside with European amphibians in them. So we did a take on those at Belmont Zoo for newts and salamanders, and then a little educational display about invasive species for the American bullfrog, and really concentrated on the landscaping and the retaining walls and the planting to bring the whole area together and make it look beautiful. For the episode, I went absolutely crazy with the cinematic camera, trying to get these amphibians and these little boxes looking as exciting as possible. And I think I was as pleased with the final result in the episode as I was with the build itself. And as simple a build as it is easily one of my favourite builds that we did this year. Now, from something often seen as unimportant in zoos to something that is always important, the entrance. Throughout all the zoos we've built on this channel, I've always tried to make the entrances unique, often going for very modernist architecture or giant animal murals and things like that. So for the Alpine Mountain Zoo, I thought for the first time ever we'd try and build a zoo entrance that actually kind of looked like a zoo entrance. It's based on the entrance to the Birmingham Zoo in Alabama, and whilst it's possibly not as exciting as some of our other zoo entrances, it was really pleasing to have a super realistic entrance for a zoo for the first time. At number 6, we have the Indian rhino habitat at Belmont Zoo. This is heavily inspired by the rhino habitats at the Tiergarten Schönbrunn in Austria, especially the big viewing platform with the tree and all the Asian flags coming off it. It's such a beautiful viewing area, and with this being Planet Zoo, I decided to make it much larger than it is in Vienna to really set the stage for the habitat. I remember being really pleased with the mud walls in this exhibit as well, which isn't something that we've done a huge amount of on the channel. We normally use rock walls, so a lot of experimenting went into these walls. It also features a direct view across the habitat into the Asian elephant habitat behind it, so that you can see both animals at the same time, and you can't see the guests that are walking on the path between them, which took some doing, but well worth it, as it usually is in Planet Zoo. You can see that effect here. There's a couple of elephants in the background, and you can also see the Indian rhino, one of my favourite animals on the planet. I always love seeing these, and that's why this is one of my favourite builds of the year. The next build was actually the first build that we did this year. It's Life in Cold Blood, also at Belmont Zoo. This, believe it or not, is the first reptile house that we've ever built on the channel. I decided rather than doing what we normally do with the exhibits and trying to come up with something really innovative, we'd actually try and build a realistic reptile house and then using the walls of the reptile house to change the size of the viewing windows into each exhibit so that animals like the boa constrictor could have massive viewing windows, and then animals like axolotls and little tree frogs would have much smaller viewing windows, and then would also add in some of the habitat reptiles like the Asian water monitor and the spectacled caiman to get some really big exhibits in there as well. The outside is based on some of the animal houses at Prague Zoo, and then the inside was an original creation, trying to go for a fairly neutral dark blue throughout, so it's the exhibits with all their lights and the animals that are the stars of the show rather than the interior. Next up is one of the latest builds that we've been working on the channel, the Himalayan Pass at the Alpine Mountain Zoo, specifically the honey badger, which was the first habitat that we put into this area back in October. This whole area is inspired by a temple in Bhutan called Tak Chiang. The architecture is absolutely amazing, and it's all built from whitewashed stone walls, which we created using about 4 million faux rock pieces. Frame rate does not thank me for that in this area, but it looks so good that I don't care. The honey badger is so charismatic as well, and that's one of the reasons this is number 4 on the list. And number 3 is the Predator and Prey exhibit at Belmont Zoo. This started life as a big savanna way back in January for numerous African ungulates and hoofstock, and then in June we added a lion habitat right next to it. It begins with this Spanish colonial revivalist kind of architecture, which was inspired by an old bird park on Catalina Island in California. And then we designed the lion habitat in such a way that when you look into the lion habitat, you can see the savanna behind it with no visible join. So it looks like the lions are in and amongst the giraffes and the wildebeest and everything else. It's not something we'd done before on the channel. It turned out really nicely, and it's definitely one of those builds where you have an idea in mind, and when it's complete, you sit back and look at it, and the concept has been achieved really well, which is probably the most satisfying thing in Planet Zoo, I think. The 2 episodes in which we built this habitat were amongst the most popular Planet Zoo episodes on the channel this year, and before we get into the top 2, I'd love to know what was your favourite build that we did in Planet Zoo this year. Where does it feature on the list? Did I feature it at all? Did I completely miss it? Let me know in the comments. And now for my second favourite habitat this year, the Ocelot Aviary at Belmont Zoo. This is my favourite recreation of a real-life habitat that we've ever done on the channel. It's based on a birdhouse at Artis in the Netherlands, which is one of the most beautiful zoo habitats I've ever seen. And when the America's Animal Pack came out, I thought it would be just about appropriate for an ocelot, and I really wanted to build for the ocelot, and I really wanted to recreate this habitat, so I thought we would do that. IRL, it has various species of birds living on the outside and then a walk-through tropical house on the inside. It dates back about 100 years, I think, maybe older than that, and then the inside is much more modern. We just used the inside as the off-show area for the ocelot and concentrated on making the outside as beautiful as possible. I think we succeeded, and it works nicely for the ocelot as well because it's absolutely chock full of climbing and hiding opportunities for them, which are really important for ocelots. Time for the number 1 habitat of 2025. Tierra del Fuego was a pre-creation, as I called it, of an upcoming exhibit at Zoo Leipzig with the same name, which recreates the landscapes in and around the coast of Tierra del Fuego. I heard about the plans for this when I visited Zoo Leipzig last year, and happily they made them available on their website, and as soon as I saw them, I knew we had to build it in Planet Zoo. There was a problem though. It's going to be absolutely massive, an enormous habitat for sea lions and penguins, with seabirds and all sorts of other wildlife from Tierra del Fuego in it as well. Underwater tunnel for the guests, multiple viewing, it's huge. And there was no way we could fit it into the zoo we were working on at the time, Belmont Zoo, so I decided to build it as a standalone build, and that seemed to work nicely because it's the biggest Planet Zoo video on the channel this year. So it seems like you guys enjoyed it. If I recall correctly, it took me about 6 weeks to build, in between building our usual weekly episodes, and I had a lot of fun building it. The underwater tunnel was particularly difficult, but happily one of my Planet Zoo pals and another Planet Zoo YouTuber, Eben, was able to help me with that, give me some advice, and eventually I got it working. And as you can see here, it really works. At the start of the tunnel, you've got penguins to your left and sea lions to your right, and then at the end of the tunnel, you are completely surrounded by the sea lions. And it just works really well. It's so tricky to pull off in Planet Zoo. It was the first underwater tunnel we'd ever successfully made on the channel, and for that reason alone, it's the number 1 build for me for 2025. But I think the whole area works really nicely as well, and it's a lot of fun building something this big and not having to worry about where it's going to fit into your zoo or anything like that. And there you go, that is my top 10 builds of 2025. Let me know in the comments what your favorite build this year was. Have an amazing Christmas, and I will see you in 2026 for some more Planet Zoo.